Welcome to Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering from ELD's Time Vault Games. So we're playing live over the internet here. We've got Tyler on Maverick leading out with Once Upon a Time versus Nick on Infect. A deck that shares a lot of similarities to Delver, but instead of having kind of a well-rounded toolbox of answers, you get rid of everything but the counter spells and go with a bunch of extra pump spells. So instead of having, say, Lightning Bolt or Fatal Push, anything like that, to handle opposing creatures, you just kill your opponent instead, which leaves plenty of time for socializing in between games very often. Now, surprising here, Nick keeping a hand with no turn 1 or turn 2 threat. Is he going to have a crop rotation or something? Looks like a Misty Rainforest. Repeated fetch lands piling up here for Nick. I mean, this is the finals, so I'm assuming this is kind of a stock-ish Infect list. I don't think he's going to be jamming a Skitherix or anything like that. And we've got an end step fetching for Tropical Island. And perhaps now that there's nothing on Tyler's side of the board that would complicate things. Nope, still nothing. Now a Glistener Elf. Okay. So we've got a Mother of Runes down, along with a Noble Hierarch. So a couple of really slow starts for both decks. A bit surprising, perhaps. Nick has just like a fistful of counter magic, assuming in the finals that he might end up facing off against a combo deck. I know Tyler has played ad nauseum previously. I'm not sure if Nick would be aware of that. Gaia's Cradle is... Thank you, Tyler. Keeping those life totals clear. Oh, and Skyclave Apparition. The 1/1 that you get to replace this Glistener Elf is not going to be very exciting at all. A couple of fetch lands here being sacrificed for Nick. And it's all Tropical Islands here for Nick's mana base. Vines of the Vastwood. Green Sun Zenith. Getting dazed. Vine shutting down combat for the turn as well. So gave it +4/+4. It's often a big part of the final strike from Infect. Combos very well with a Berserk, which Nick may need here in order to actually break on through. As Mother of Rune's going to be totally fine blocking Glistener Elf. Tireless Tracker. Card, I swear, sees more play in sideboards than it does in main decks. It's a common card for lands to use to try and grind out the opponents and have a alternate path to victory. Here, it may allow Tyler to kind of pull out of this standstill. He's not really at a standstill. He's pretty much in the driver's seat. Let's say win the race faster would be the goal. If Nick draws a Berserk and he already has some pump spells, this could be over very quickly. There's not a whole lot Tyler can do about that. It's probably going to be Swords to Plowshares. Is going to be the main thing to dig for. End step, sacrificing those clues, pumping up, and now sending, and not actually sure why the Skyclave Apparition didn't swing. Yeah. No, I think that's got to be incorrect sequencing there. I mean, it feels like you play the Skyclave pre-combat and then swing with everything. Maybe Tyler was just in a mindset that he was going to win that game no matter what. Perhaps holding off on casting that to try and hide information. I'm not sure. I'm generally not a fan of trying to play around giving my opponent information. If it ever costs you any percentage points, just a general game theory perspective, the way I usually play when I'm playing at my best, even, I generally don't worry about giving my opponents information if it could possibly lead to losing the game. I mean, even if it's a 1%er, something really, really minor, it's giving your opponent that extra draw step, for example, that could end up costing you, just not worth it, in my estimation. It's a very real risk to risk losing the game. Giving your opponent information is sometimes not a risk. Sometimes they actually know what you're going to be telling them, or they were assuming that anyways. Sometimes you may give them information and they may extrapolate incorrectly off of that. I just don't think that those kind of different levels of gamesmanship really interact. I feel like it's kind of like a tiebreaker situation, where if you can have a situation where you're not giving up any percentages, then sure, do the thing that doesn't give them information, but generally not gonna ever risk the prospect of winning a game to any degree just to deny some information. Noble Hierarchs opening for both players. Nick able to ponder. And I have almost never seen Infect win with just regular damage. I have seen it, but man, is that unusual. I have seen a whole squad of Noble Hierarchs just power out damage, and the pump spells be used to actually cause lethal, hard casting, Invigorate. I mean, has not been often. Could easily count it on one hand. Sylvan Library for Nick is a very dangerous card. His Infect can leverage those extra cards as well as anything. Being able to use those extra pump spells to push through a lethal strike of poison, or get those extra counters to make sure that there's nothing Tyler can do, like a Swords to Plowshares, for example. Though honestly, you typically do not want to... Nice. Daze stopping that Thalia. You typically do not want to use your removal on the Infect player's turn, just as a general rule. You generally need to main phase that stuff on your turn. Otherwise, you run the risk of the Infect player using their pump spells to not only pump their creature and push through extra Infect damage, but to save the creature at the same time. So, for example, if you were trying to Lightning Bolt their creature, you need to do that on your turn. If you throw that out on their turn, they could Invigorate in response, and it's just a total disaster. Swords to Plowshares can get stopped by Vines of Vastwood. Nick digging with Brainstorm. He's got that Sylvan. He's got the Shuffle, which is huge, of course, for Brainstorm, but Shuffle effects in general when you've got Sylvan out, incredibly powerful. If you're just looking at the same 3 cards over and over again, not really that big of a difference, but when you're seeing fresh cards on the top of the library every turn, eventually you will find what you need, in all likelihood. And what Nick needs right now is the ability to get down an Infect creature, as he still doesn't have one on board. Now, the way you draw it up with Infect is typically turn 1 Glistener Elf, turn 2 kill you, and that has not been at all what these games have looked like so far. Skyclave Apparition. The real deal, it has been said in our community pretty much since the card was spoiled, once people started testing it very, very early on. Initial results, we've got a lot of Death and Taxes players. Ooh, Submerge. That's spicy. Submerge getting the Hex Drinker out of there, and now a Blighted Agent. Noble Hierarch gets a Mother of Runes. And Skyclave Apparition turns sideways. Nick's life total is dissipating. But there's an awful lot that he can do to win this race. Wow, Gaia's Cradle getting pretty dangerous. Able to tap for 5. That can level up this Hex Drinker in a hurry. Wow, I think this is 1 point away from being lethal on Tyler's next turn. Nick continuing to dig. Noble Hierarch can serve as a chump blocker to a degree, but this Hex Drinker will eventually be totally unstoppable, just so roided up Trune Nemesis. Alright, lost the feed for a second there. Resolving this Brainstorm. Oh, and there may have actually been some confusion. I'll skip ahead. Okay. Yeah, it looks like we had a technical issue that was distracting in the middle of resolving that Brainstorm. There was a judge call. It got sorted, but Nick is digging with a second Brainstorm. And Blighted Agent swings. Tyler sees a Become Immense and a Invigorate. He's got the Swords to Plowshares. And it gets exiled, so it looks like Infect completely blown out here by the 1-mana instant swords. Really never been done better. Since day one, Alpha Swords to Plowshares has set the bar for quality removal, and nothing's really come close. Lightning Bolt's a heck of a Magic card too, but would not have saved the day there. And Nick picking up the library as Tyler takes that one down in 2, thanks to that Swords to Plowshares absolutely clutch, bailing him out as Nick had assembled lethal, but it was all undone for just 1 white mana. That is all for this one, but don't worry, there is a lot more. You can check out our older videos, and we're always putting out new videos from ELD's Time Vault games in Bellingham, Massachusetts. If you want to help the channel, of course, you can like, subscribe, share, tap that notification bell so you can know the next time our new videos come out. Thanks for watching.